Okay, there he is. There he is, right there.
How's that? Can you see it?
It's upside down.
I can fix that.
Don't drop that thing.
I'm out of here. I want no part of this.
Oh no, he might be dead.
He is dead.
Get over here. Are you dead?
Not if you kiss me.
Aren't you even hurt?
No, because with Chumley, continuing legal education is never painful. And Chumley is working to make the practice of law
Fun!
Welcome to Chumley's show number 3. This is the second part of our program on interventions. In the first part, we talked about shock and denial and anger and rage. In the second part, we initially planned to go directly to false bargaining. But after the first show was shot, and during the course of a improvisational exercise by the Chumley players, we found a intervention on Mike's anger that is just too good to be true, and his response to the intervention is even better. So that's how we're going to start this program. Before we get going on that, though, let me remind old viewers and explain to new viewers what the Kubler-Ross stage theory of grief looks like. It has 5 stages. It starts with shock and denial, followed by anger and rage, then false bargaining, depression, and acceptance. In the first hour of this program, we did shock and denial and anger and rage. We are going to continue with the anger and rage on this second hour and then go to false bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And then we've got a short, kind of funny clip on anger and rage. That's the way we're going to end it. Our subjects are still Anna and Mike, and here's the setup. Mike's the initiator of the divorce. Anna is very emotional and demonstrative. In the first meeting that we showed, Anna arrived 20 minutes late with her dog and her baby, and when asked why, she said that she wanted to show Mike what he was leaving. In the second program, and supposedly the second meeting of Mike and Anna, he has just arranged for a presentation by an accountant and a business appraiser that's very rational and orderly. And at the end of that, Anna says, I have something to say, and takes her glass of water, throws it at him, and calls him a son of a bitch. There was another version in which she threw the glass of water at him, called him a son of a bitch, and told him that the baby wasn't his. You could take your pick of one version or the other. What we're going to show you now is Mike's meeting with the mediator a week or so after that incident. The mediator's task is to somehow inspire in Mike a response to Anna's aggression that is not aggressive. In fact, takes the sting out of the aggression and allows the mediation to move forward. He does it, and I think you're going to like the way it works out. Mike, thanks for coming in. The purpose of our meeting today is to talk about and do something about your reaction to our last session. I've given it a lot of thought because, of course, it's something somewhat unusual in a mediation, although I have to tell you it's the second time it's happened in my office. The first time it was a crystal or a real glass that she threw instead of the plastic. That, So.
Lucky me.
Yeah, lucky you. So, what have you been thinking? Would you?
I just want to get this over with as fast as I can.
Yeah.
Whatever I can do to just get it done. I mean,
Well, that's what you said, and I think that's what set her off. You remember that?
yeah.
And you actually gave the...
Oh, because I mean it.
Yeah, I know, but it sounds like you just want to dump her. That's what it sounds like.
Okay, all right.
And you
okay.
probably do.
Yeah, I
Okay, well, that's not gonna work.
do. All right.
You have to be gentle.
Yeah.
So if you had one word to describe how you feel about having the water thrown on you at our last session, what would that word be?
Angry.
Are you going to be able to contain that anger, change it to something else?
Well, contain. Look. I paid for these sessions. I paid for these sessions for us to get through this together, to work it out the best way we can, hospitably between ourselves, like adults. And in this session that, as you said, was going so well, she ends it by throwing water at me like a child. How am I supposed to contain myself? I mean, come on, if she's gonna act like that, how am I supposed to respond? What is the appropriate human response to that kind of behavior? Come on! What? I can't deal with that!
Maya,
What?
take a breath and tell me how old you feel right now.
8,
8?
5.
I have a question. Do you still have the same girlfriend that you had the last time we had this private session?
Mm-hmm.
And did you tell her about the water throwing incident?
Yeah, I sure did.
Did you tell her shortly after it happened?
Mm-hmm. That night.
And what was her response?
We laughed about it. She laughed at me, which made me laugh. Uh-huh. Yeah.
And did you tell anybody at work about it?
Yes, I did.
How many people?
14.
And now, are you stuck with popcorn full time now?
I am with popcorn full time.
That worked out somehow?
Yeah, I guess.
So,
yeah, I did.
Of these people at work,
Mm-hmm.
how many of those laughed?
Well, when I stood up on the table and told everyone, everyone laughed. Oh, Bob was pissed, but no, everyone laughed.
Is she popular at your place of work?
Is she popular?
Yeah.
She's popular to laugh about.
Yeah.
Then,
People like her?
no,
No?
they're on my team. Well, they think it was funny what she did.
And so, do you think they liked her more or less after they heard the story?
They liked her more.
So now, that's input from people who are close to you in different ways. And with that input, does that give you any ideas or stimulus, catalyst for figuring out a different way to deal with her other than anger?
It does. Can you give me 1
I
second?
will, but now,
No,
it's not going to be mean to her.
No. I think I'm with you. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Okay? You made me think. If she's gonna throw water on me, I might as well live on it. Yar! These boots. Yar! Yar!
Cut.
Now we're going to go to false bargaining. This is a skit that wasn't included in the first program. It is called "The Doctor is in a Hurry to Get On with the Rest of His Life," and it contains a pretty dramatic demonstration of acute false bargaining. Here goes. Well, Doctor, may I call you Jim?
Sure.
What brings you here? You called for an emergency appointment and you've got it.
Well, it's an emergency because, I gave what I thought was a really fair proposal, more than fair proposal,
This that you handed me.
to my lawyer to convey to my wife, and apparently it was not only rejected, but rejected out of hand. And I don't understand what I'm supposed to do to get this done, but I want to get this over with as soon as I can. I'm busy.
You've been separated, what, about 5 weeks now?
5 weeks and 2 days.
And you're the one that initiated the divorce, right?
Yeah, I've decided that
You want to get on with your life?
I needed to get on with my life, and she needed to get on with her life, and so I'm trying to get this process done. I know it takes a while with the courts, but I think between the two of us, we ought to be able to come up with something for the children and the property settlement. I mean, as adults, why can't we do that right away?
And do you remember in our first mediation session, I asked that you not give each other any proposals before I got a look at them, so I could tell you whether I thought the reception was going to be generous or closed, and also I could help you format the proposal to maybe avoid some conflict. Do you remember me telling you that?
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
And then you called me and said that you were going to do this, and I asked you not to, but apparently you did anyway.
Well, to be honest with you, I kind of thought that position by you was an effort to generate fees and more time.
Mm-hmm.
You could make more money off of this divorce by having it last longer. So
yeah, mediation is a very lucrative endeavor. We can talk about that sometime.
well, you should see what they pay with Medicare now. It's a lot of work. But
But
anyway, and I also thought that my wife and I have known each other for a long time. We used to communicate pretty well. And as adults, why can't we work this out just between the two of us? We don't need lawyers coming up with stuff and just slowing down the process.
Mm-hmm. So you thought that you could come up with fair, that's a terrible word, F word, terms that would be acceptable to her without an editor or anyone else taking a look at it.
Absolutely. I figured the two of us are smart enough, and I have a lot of years of education. I thought we could do that, just the two of us.
Mm-hmm. The first substantive condition of your proposal is 50-50 physical custody of your children. Is that right?
Absolutely.
And I think you told me on the phone that you believe that that's what the law is.
Well, I would hope so. I'm a parent, she's a parent, and there's two of us. That's 50-50.
What would you say her primary identity is? Is it as a mom?
Well, a mom and a shopper.
Mom and a shopper, okay. As a mom, do you think that identity is challenged at all by you saying you want those children 50% of the time? Even though that's not physically possible, I would imagine, given the fact that you're so busy at the hospital that you could barely spare a half hour for this appointment.
Well, I can certainly spare all the time I possibly can for my kids. And it might attack her identity or her self-esteem, but she's got to get used to it. I mean, we're not going to be married anymore.
Mm-hmm. She's not going to be a doctor's wife anymore, and she's going to be a co-parent instead of a mom.
That's correct.
And that's something you should just get over with and get over with quickly.
The sooner the better.
The sooner the better. And then the second provision of this agreement or proposal that you sent to her was that she should never, under any circumstances, use the family name ever again.
That's correct.
And why was that?
Well, she's not married to me anymore. She's got her own name. She can use her own name. And I don't want her going around muddying my name and my family's name and my reputation that I've worked really hard to keep, one of the best in the community. I don't want to have it rub off on me now that I'm not living with her anymore.
And is your family in accord with this? Are you doing this on behalf of your family, or is this all your own?
I'm doing it on behalf of everybody, and I'm sure if I talked to my family members, they'd agree that it's our name, not hers.
Penny, what will you do with this guy?
Are these parties represented by counsel?
Yes.
By chance? So the agreement was generated by counsel for Dr. Eckelberg?
Together they worked on it.
Together they did. Okay. And I see. And wife is represented as well? Okay. And in your initial consultation, I would imagine that you covered the stages and the difficulty of having them in different places. You were obviously planting seeds here. I think I would have, been much more direct with this man, particularly about the 50-50. And usually there's that conversation that joint doesn't necessarily mean 50-50. And a lot of people have a misconception about that. So probably would have gone off on that a little bit to just sort of explore why he thought that was important, or whether he was flexible, and if, whether that was really an issue or not.
I think I would really ask him what he imagined her response is. He started by saying he thought it was very fair. And I think I would probably go fairly directly at that. Did he really imagine that saying she could no longer keep the name that she's had during X number of years of marriage was going to go well? He talked about the fees that were being incurred here. I would probably talk a little bit about what he could expect in terms of fees if they fully litigate this case, because if he makes her head go off in this way, she is going to run to her lawyer and they're going to prepare an equally outrageous response, and then we will have World War III. And was that really what he wanted? Because he wants to be done quickly, and he's not going to be done quickly if that's where it goes. I would try to go back to what is in his best interest. He says he doesn't want to spend a lot of money, he wants to move this along quickly. Then I would start to ask him what he thinks he can do to get her to agree to whatever settlement it is that he thinks is fair, because this probably didn't work that well.
Well, I was thinking, I think that Penny and Laura have hit all the important points. I think for me the key here is I would categorize him generally in the sort of narcissistic personality, box category. He is very tuned into his own opinions and his own perceptions. And I think he is highly resistant to listening to anyone else's opinion. So I really wouldn't go at him with any opinions at all. What I would do would be probe for his perceptions. He's a doctor, he knows human nature, he knows his wife. How is she going to react to this? And then I would appeal to his economic interests. If she is reacting badly to this, what is that going to mean in terms of your future, your ability to make a life for yourself and to keep your economic status intact? Because that is really and truly all that he can hear and all that he's interested in. That's my sense. And I also think this is a man who is going to tell his friends at the club that he spent $250,000 on his divorce and she took him to the cleaners, and he may take some pride in that. And
$250,000 for my divorce, but it was worth it.
But it was worth it. That's right. It's worth every penny of it.
Okay. Well, this is the kind of client that pushes my buttons. Cody just got me, and as you'll see, my response is dubious at best. This is what I would like you to do. I don't want to see you again until you can give me at least a half a day. And when I say a half a day, I want you to come in at 1 o'clock, and I want you to be prepared to stay here until 6 the following morning, if that's what we have to do to get this work done. And I want you to think of 3 reasons why I might impose that condition on a meeting. And the second condition is that I want you to think of 3 reasons why insisting that your wife not use the family name of Eckelberg is not a good idea either. Okay?
It's going to be hard for me to set aside that much time. I mean, I have a lot of patients who need me badly. It's sometimes a matter of life and death.
But they do.
And
maybe there'll be a lull. I'll change my calendar around to accommodate you.
well, that would be nice, but there's never a lull in dying. That's the problem.
You're a proctologist, right?
That's correct.
I imagine there are a lot of dying assholes in Santa Barbara.
Well, if you're going to insult me, Mr. Burke, you're not going to make much progress in mediation.
Well, that's true. That's true. I'm trying to test your sense of humor.
Oh,
so far, Penny,
What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, when you said, I don't want to see you again, unless you have half a day, I thought it was you were voluntarily backing away from the mediation, which I was sort of yes on that. But I think it is good to make it clear that this is a voluntary process for all three people in the process, including the mediator. And any one of us can walk away at any time, depending on the behavior of each one of them. You know, hopefully just sort of raising the bar a bit as far as, you know, fake it if you have to. But there's a certain level of behavior that can be expected and a level of engagement that can be expected, or you won't be spending time in my office.
I think that, yes, he has to be advised of the fact that you can withdraw as well. But I think I would be very concerned about his wife in this process. Something that I think we have seen is that this sort of controlling spouse, if the wife is not represented ably, she really can be disadvantaged during this process. He may well be moving assets around, doing things behind her back, and I would be constantly working with her to say, I have doubts that this mediation is going to conclude. We're willing to continue to work with you a little while longer to see if we can make some progress, but you need to be prepared to have this, turn this over to a litigator if this isn't going to go well. I would hate to see her blithely going along thinking mediation is going to be fine, and then we withdraw and she doesn't have representation.
What about suggesting to her to bring her lawyer to the sessions and suggesting to him that in the interest of progress and the power dynamics that he not bring his lawyer to the session?
I would guess he wouldn't agree to it. Generally what I see in these sort of situations is, in fact, they lie about that. They say, oh, I've talked to an attorney and that's how I know this is what the spousal support number would be. That's how I know that asking her to relinquish the family name is fair, because I spoke to my attorney. In fact, there usually isn't an attorney because they're not taking advice from anyone. They're going to control this entire process. So frankly, I think he probably wouldn't agree to have her attorney there. He doesn't have his own attorney. And in this case, I would be trying to let her know that we might well withdraw, and she needs to be prepared if that happens.
Well, I was intrigued by your suggestion, Brian, of bringing her attorney in and not his. And I had a different response than Laura, which is that this type of narcissistic personality, and we're making a snap judgment about that, is often quite willing to pit his intelligence against anyone's, because his belief is that, and he's probably not entirely wrong. This guy's a doctor, and he's a bright guy.
In some respect, most respects.
So he might well take that on. I'm not sure that any good would come of it in the end. He might get angry at the attorney for pretending to know so much or to understand the law. But I thought your intervention was an interesting one, and I interpreted it a little differently. I saw it as I think you assessed the situation, you assessed it as probably a non-starter, and you threw a Hail Mary pass. And you said, if you can catch this Hail Mary pass, then maybe there is some hope. If you rise to this challenge, then maybe you are committed enough to this process for whatever reason, financial or because you want to be a good guy or whatever it is. You may be committed enough to this process to make something happen here. So I thought it was an interesting, and I thought you had nothing to lose.
Russ, is the need to control associated with narcissism?
Yes. Particularly the need to control the spouse, but absolutely, narcissism is a sense of, an illusory sense often, of control over your environment, and when that's threatened, it creates tremendous anxiety in a narcissist.
The next vignette shows depression, and it begins with a client's phone call asking to be excused from participating in mediation for the immediate future. I show you the first intervention, which is to get her into the office while at the same time respecting the feelings as she's expressed them and in her feelings with respect to mediation. So let's cut to that right now.
Chumley, Family Law Mediation.
Brian,
Yeah?
it's Laura Babcock.
Hey, what's up?
I'm cracking up. Frank and I have had 7 sessions in the last 2 months. I know we've made a lot of progress, but I can't think about it without going around and around in circles. It's getting to the point where I'm making myself just sick. There's an appointment Dad for tomorrow, and I don't want to come. But if I cancel, Frank will just freak out.
Remember that both you and Frank independently have control over the mediation process. You have control, he has control. Neither one of you can make the other do anything that he or she doesn't want to do. And if you don't feel like you can go forward with a session, you shouldn't. Not only is that necessary for your own mental health, but it also helps Frank in that if we try to push people to work in mediation when they're not feeling like working in mediation, it actually adds time to the whole process.
Well, I've heard you say that, and I understand it, but I don't think Frank believes you.
Well, I have permission to talk to each of you separately. So what I would like to do is for you to come in maybe 10, 15 minutes before our next scheduled session. I think that in that time we can figure out something that you could do that would be constructive in a very short period of time. 5 minutes into the mediation, I think, would be over it. If we can't think of something that you can do that would be constructive, I will just cancel the session and say that the next session is to be arranged, and that will be that. I don't want you to go through with it when you're not feeling like it. Fair enough?
Okay, I can come in early, but I really don't want to stay for long.
Okay, I won't keep you. That's a promise.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Penny, what do you do?
You know, I don't think anybody ever wants to go to my office, so you were very generous about letting her off the hook, and I really agree with you that that was probably a good thing to do and get her in at least for a few moments. The preparation to come into a mediation, I think, is much harder on our clients than we can ever imagine. And the stress and the tension that they build up to that, and they know that they're going to be in the room with their soon-to-be ex-spouse. Maybe I would have asked her, are there any arrangements that we can make or changes that we can make in the dynamic? Do you want to have a separate meeting? Should we split it in half? You know, is there any way that we could maybe relieve some of your stress? Is there any one particular thing that you're worried about, to try to get to the kind of the heart of the matter as far as why she's so anxious? And if we do, then I could possibly call Frank and talk to him about it and see if there's anything we can do about that ahead of time, so that we're going in with more of a clear agenda, if that could possibly relieve her stress.
Would you try to do that on the telephone? Are you able to do that on the phone?
I have. Either that, or sometimes it's the emailing. And I try to limit that because there's so much you can't read in an email. But I think I'd want to get to the bottom of her anxiety, to see if there was something that I could do as a mediator to relieve it, but still allow that momentum to go. That's really my thought. I don't know what the outcome is, but yes, if she would know that I was calling Frank, and Frank would know what she's anxious about, and either what we're not going to talk about, what we're going to add to the agenda, what she needs to cover first possibly, what her priorities might be, maybe you've spent time on subjects that aren't important to her and she's feeling frustrated. So it might need a change up, and a shake-up can be good on that kind of thing. And I would handle it by phone.
Like Penny, I wasn't exactly sure why she couldn't come in for the session. And I'm a little concerned that she wanted to cancel it. I couldn't quite tell, did she want to cancel or reschedule? If it had been a rescheduling, I don't think there would be a problem. Fine, but if you're not ready to come in on Tuesday, do you want to come in on Thursday? But she said something about Frank would be upset if she didn't come. And I would want to know more what that was about. And I might take it on myself and say, well, if we can't have this session, I'll call Frank and tell him I've got an issue that we can't meet, and so I'll cancel the session for you. That's not a problem. But I would want to know a lot more about what was going on, and like Penny, I would do that on the phone. I would just say, let's just talk this out now. Do we need to set parameters? Do we need to set, sometimes we'll set timelines within the session that we need to get this accomplished in the first 20 minutes, and we'll check in with you and see how you're doing, and we'll check in with you at 40 minutes. But he would need to be a part of that discussion. I don't want him to be ambushed by coming into a session, finding out that I've met with her secretly and that I have an agreement to cancel it in 5 minutes if she's unhappy. I would want to give him a heads up about that.
I think, like Penny and Laura, I would be interested to know more about her anxiety. I think for me the big question would be, is this delay or attempted delay about the process? Because it might be about the process. She may feel uncomfortable in mediation sessions. It may be confrontive, and she's not a confrontive person. It may be anxiety provoking in a million ways. Or is it about the divorce? And in fact, what is happening is she's attempting to just delay the divorce process in and of itself. If I thought it was about her anxiety about the session, she's going to be anxious in session, and there may be nothing you can do about that. And I think at that point I would begin trying to reconnect her with her intentions in the mediation. What is it that she is trying to accomplish in the mediation, and how soon is she attempting to get it done? Because typically what happens when people are resistant to the session itself is they are very in touch with their discomfort with this process, but they've lost touch with their objective, which is to get this, in one way or another, to get this done.
That's good. Let's see what I get.
Of course, I don't know how you feel exactly because I'm not you, but I've got a pretty good idea because I've heard it from so many clients, and I've seen it in so many clients, and I've had an experience with it. I can tell you 4 or 5 things about it. One is it's transitory. This is a temporary condition. 2, it's absolutely normal. In fact, I'd worry about a client who wasn't having this experience, although a lot of them cover it up. 3, it's not going to come back and get you later in life. This is a one-time thing. And 4, it really is part of the process, and I think it's necessary. You're grieving and you're down. There's no surprise there. And then you're going to be back in yourself, in your full self, and you're going to feel bigger and bigger and better and wiser than you were at the beginning. And it's not just a small change, it's a big change. And you're doing wonderfully. I've told you that before, but you're right up in their top 10, 5%, whatever. So keep on doing whatever it is you're doing, and this is fine. As for Frank, I would suggest this. Tell him 2 things. One that he wants to hear and one that he needs to hear. The thing that he might want to hear is gratitude. That's always a good place to start. And as far as the gratitude goes, Frank has made a lot of money, and he's kept it. And he's quick to describe his feelings and his thoughts. I mean, he feels it or thinks that we know about it, at least here. And not once has he said anything that suggests to me that he begrudges you your half of about $30 million. That's something to be grateful for, I would think. Then what he wants to hear, What he needs to hear is that you can't go on right now. And so you might put it this way. Tell him how you feel. Express the feelings, not the rationale for them, or the cause of them, or the description. Just, this is the way it is for me, Frank, and I can't go forward with this mediation process anymore. That's the only reason. It's me. It's not the details. It's not you. It's me. And then say that all you can promise him is that it won't take any longer than is absolutely necessary, and that you'll let him know as soon as you're ready to go again. You can do that, or I can terminate the session as soon as we get there and say that we'll reschedule it at some later date, and then you may leave, and then I'll talk to Frank a little bit and soothe him and explain to him once again that the mediation process can't be pushed. If you push it, you get a lousy product, you get any product at all. He may or may not, I mean, I've explained it to him before. He'll get it at some.
Well, okay, yeah, I can do that. I can think of something nice to say to Frank, and I do appreciate everything he's done for us. It's not going to be easy telling them I can't go on, but that's the only way that I can handle it. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate everything you've done for me and the kids. All the money you've earned, going through this whole process, it's taken a lot longer than we thought it would, and I really do truly appreciate all the things you have done. But I have to tell you, I just can't go through this for another day. It's just been so stressful, it's just making me sick. I need a break. I have to take some time off. You'll be the first person to know the instant I'm ready to return to this meeting room and this table to finish off our discussion, but for the time being, I'm done. Sorry.
Betty?
I think the client handled that beautifully as far as explaining about needing a break. And if that would have been gotten to on the telephone, what I had mentioned before is that I would have called Frank and talked to him about her needing a break. But now seeing that, I realized that that would have taken that direct communication away, and I would have been inserting myself and fixing things as a mediator of something that needed to happen directly between the two spouses. So I gotta tell you, I think it turned out the way it was supposed to turn out.
I agree. I think you handled that one perfectly. You knew them, and you knew that she would be able to deliver that message, and that he would be in a place that he could hear it. And I think it was perfect.
I think you took a leap. I think you took a leap when you scripted her response. But you know what? I think sometimes that's the perfect intervention when you have a client who is anxious and doesn't quite have words, and you have intuited what it is that they have to say, and you know what Frank needs to hear. You really did give her the words, and in this situation, I think it was the perfect thing to do.
Julia and Matthew, it's good to see you. It's been about a year, and according to the file and my memory, we got the first draft, the second draft of a marital settlement agreement, and then there was a stall over airline miles. Is that right? Yes.
That's right. Well, we took care of that.
You did. I take it that you want me to prepare the final draft of the marital settlement agreement and the court documents?
Yes, we do.
Now let me make sure that I understand what this agreement is. It looks like it's on the back of a napkin. I like that. That looks like you went out to lunch together and resolved all the outstanding issues.
Yes.
That's right. We took care of all of it.
I told you at the beginning that the settlement never happens in my office, so I don't get the credit for it, but it's much better when you do your own work. In fact, it's essential. So this settlement looks to me like it's $100,000 cash payment
That's right.
and $10,000 a month for 12 months. And then the dead to me.
Deductible to me.
Oh, deductible to Matthew for the payments. And then it says M for 1 BC to Europe.
It's miles for 1 business class trip to Europe.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
pretty nice. Oh, generous of you, Matthew. Have you
That's
ever
right.
been to Europe business class?
But we took care of it all. In fact, it seems to me that we mostly did it. We had a couple of sessions and then you wrote up an agreement, but I'm assuming that was on a template and didn't take you too much time. And then, so the total bill at this point is $2,450. Boy, I don't know how you can charge so much. But since we've pretty much done it all, I think you should go ahead and finish up the paperwork, and we'll just leave it at the $2,450 that we've already paid. What do you think of that?
Well, I would have to go back to our fee agreement, which we would have all been in possession of an original, and talk about what our deal was. And also there is a level of expertise that's required to put that template together. And I'm very sorry that he feels that that amount of money is in excess of the value of the services. I essentially would not be able to apologize or reduce the bill. The only thing I would consider discussing is maybe a slight discount if it were paid in full in 24 hours.
Well, this doesn't happen too much in my practice because the clients pay their bill as they go. They pay at the end of each session for that session. And then the paperwork I charge half up front and half upon delivery of the first draft of the MSA.
Well, now that's the situation here. They're paid up.
So he's paid up.
And he just wants you to do the rest of it for free.
For free. The answer would be no. And I think that I would, well, it depends. Occasionally when I have someone quibble about the fee, I will say, if you feel that you were unsatisfied with the work that you did here and you are unhappy with the product, and you don't, usually if you put it in that way, they'll come back and say, oh, no, we're very happy. I see. Then I need you to pay the bill.
Well, I think that it doesn't happen much in our practice, and I think one reason it doesn't is that we use that final session. We have a very specific agenda in that final session, and it's to create an atmosphere of acknowledgement and gratitude and ongoing partnership. And usually the final session really has an emotional tenor that has people really not thinking so much about the money. And one way we do that is we express a lot of gratitude and admiration for the clients and for what they have done. And that usually, and often that causes them to express admiration and gratitude for what we've done for them, or it triggers some of that in them. But honestly, the last session, generally speaking, the last session for us is a sort of celebration of the process and of what a tremendous thing these people have done.
In this case, the scenario is you've got this much older man married to a much younger woman, and you've managed to stay out of their way so that they can find a resolution that they are both really satisfied with, and then he comes back and he complains about an hourly bill of $2,500 lousy dollars, where he could have spent $25,000 or $250,000 like that.
Yeah.
And it does. Okay, so the question is, does that push your button at all, Laura?
Oh, it would make me crazy. but it doesn't. It just doesn't happen.
If it happened to you, you answered the
Oh, it
question.
would make me crazy.
if
Of course
that
it would.
How about you, Russ?
Yes, it would make me crazy for a number of reasons. And one of the reasons is I think that for me, it is important, it's very important that mediation be acknowledged as the process that enabled this.
Because we're poor.
Well, and it's not only because we're poor, it's because mediation is tremendously undervalued in the culture, and there needs to be a conversation about the value of mediation. And it's surprising how often the clients leave, and particularly if they're in this spirit of celebration, they go and they tell their friends, we mediated. And particularly if they're feeling a little self-congratulatory about it, they tell their friends, you should mediate. And that's the effect that I like to produce. And that
would you try to turn this guy around, or would you just want to get rid of him?
You know, for me, what happens in this situation is it is my nature to ask myself, is he right? Could he be right? Did I charge him too much? So I do everything I can to avoid this situation. And when it arises, I turn to Laura. I say, Laura, you handle this.
How about you, Penny? Stay with the don't fight the hypothetical. This is what's happened. Does it make you crazy?
I'm offended by it, quite frankly. I know the value of my services. I know the work that we do and what we accomplish for these people at a fraction of what it would cost to litigate even one temporary support order, just right out of the gate. Not to mention who moves out and who, temporary, it's... their lives,
Put your hands to her chest.
The thought of my fees being cut, I take it very personally, and I agree with Russ that the value of mediation is not appreciated in our society. It's sort of like the ghettoization of mediation, and it started with ADR, because it was alternative. There's nothing alternative about mediation. It is as mainstream as one can get. It's a legitimate practice of the law. It's providing a service that is extremely valuable to our society in general, particularly to the children that are involved in these families. Will never apologize for my fees.
That's almost the end of the second hour of Chumley's 2-hour program on using the stage theory of grief to design and evaluate interventions, both in family law and mediation practice. I say almost because we've got 2 more clips for you. The first one reframes the whole issue of fees. You're going to like it. And then the second one is an outtake describing an anger phase in the doctor's divorce. You're going to like that too. If Anna doesn't want her and Bill can't take her, maybe I could have her for part of my fee?
And action.
It's a pretty, sweet baby. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're a very sweet baby. Maybe I could take the baby for the rest of my fee.
Sheila, what are you doing here?
You son of a bitch!
How are we doing?
I think it's worse than you thought. This is called the anger stage.
All right. Well, we're in it.
You are. You're in it.